So Zelda Wii U has been delayed twice now. It has been delayed from 2015 to 2017, yeah. Anyway, that can only mean that this is going to be a great game. Obviously they wouldn't delay it if they were already done with it, so this game is obviously packed with content that they want to make as perfect as possible. So I have some wishes for Zelda Wii U. We're gonna see this game at E3, and we're gonna be able to play it as well. So I had to make this video before E3 comes, in case we get some of these questions answered. So here are my 5 hopes for The Legend of Zelda for Wii U. A great story. Now, the Zelda games have been different in story. I think my favorite story from the Zelda games is possibly from the Wind Waker, where it all is kind of this adventurous feeling of a little boy who wants to save his sister. This whole game is kind of, it goes from saving your sister to saving the world, basically. Also, Twilight Princess has a great story, because in that game you kind of have this main villain, and then you have a villain behind that again that you don't really get to know until the end of the game, which is very cool. You also have this very adventurous feeling in Twilight Princess, and you really feel like a hero, since you're saving the children from your own village. I want this game to have a great story too. I don't want it to be straightforward from point A to point B. I want it to have some depths to it, to have some in a way we can relate to the Link, in a way we can relate to the story, and some twists here and there. I want to have a story where unexpected things will happen, where exciting things will happen, where it's not just, okay, you need to complete that and that and that and that dungeon. This is something I quite didn't like in Ocarina of Time, even though much of the story was amazing. The final part was kind of, okay, you have to complete all the dungeons, and then you can go to the final boss. It was not really much of a story in between those. You would just complete that dungeon, move to the next, then the next, and so on, until you were done. I want this to have some more depth to the reason you are in the dungeons, you know? I want to have a story where things are different, each time. We don't just go to the dungeon just to go there, but there actually are a reason you go there in the first place. I hope this game will have a great story overall. Connection to other games. Now, this is something I feel Twilight Princess did amazingly. If it's something I admire, I think is very mysterious and stuff, it's when we are connected to things in the past, if you know what I mean. When you, for example, find some ruins or something from long ago, that is very cool, right? It's something along those lines in Twilight Princess as well. When you get to an area or find a piece of something, you find an item or something from long ago, that is very cool. And Twilight Princess has loads of connections to other games, everything from items to locations to characters to songs. I want this game to have that as well. And because of that, it also ties in nicely with the story. I want this game to have a connection to other games so we can understand where this game is story-wise in this Zelda timeline that we got. Because the timeline is actually very, very interesting, with the timeline splitting into 3 after Ocarina of Time and stuff. I think that's genius. And I want this game to tie in with the story in a very cool way, to maybe affect other games as well. Maybe this game can answer some questions that we've had with other games too. And if I'm gonna say something that I think or hope this game will be placed in the timeline, I have a feeling this game might be somewhere after Skyward Sword but before Ocarina of Time, somewhere between there, I think. But we'll just have to wait and see, but I hope it will have some nice connections to the overall story. World of exploration. We've gotten to know that the world, or the overworld of Zelda Wii U is huge, it's massive. We've seen it from a little demo that Nintendo has shown us, and the world seems to be incredibly big, which is very cool. Now, there might be a little bit of a problem with just that if they don't do it correctly. And that is that the world might be empty. Now, don't get me wrong, a big world doesn't need to be full with content and enemies and stuff everywhere. I think the Wind Waker has an amazing overworld, because in the Wind Waker overworld, lots of things are happening. As you're sailing through the sea, sometimes things might just not happen. But the thing with the Wind Waker is that it's beautiful to look at. You see islands rising in the horizon as you sail, and you see other islands far, far away that you can sail to. It's very beautiful to look at. And alongside with this, The weather is constantly changing from rain to thunderstorm. You can see the sunset going down, and you can see it turning from night to day and day to night. Enemies are randomly appearing, rupees are randomly appearing, then you're passing past islands, and things are overall happening, and there are these different things you can find out there in the ocean, treasures, big octos. This makes the whole overworld of the Wind Waker feel very alive, it feels very packed with content, and also a bit randomized, which is cool, and which is great. I hope Zelda Wii U will do this as well, because the overworld in Twilight Princess feels not very packed with content, it feels kind of empty. And that's something I don't like. The Wind Waker overworld never felt empty, I never felt bored sailing around, but I felt bored walking around in Twilight Princess. And I hope this won't be the case here. I hope that the game will look beautiful. I know it will look beautiful, everybody knows that, so it'll be beautiful to look in the horizon as you walk. But I also hope there will be some things to do, some things to find, random enemies that appear, random things like the octos in Wind Waker that will appear, or random enemies all the time, random treasures. Something, I don't know what, but some things that will make the overworld interesting to walk through. A good combat system. You know, the obvious or the real part of the Zelda games, so the main thing you do most of the time is fighting. And obviously the combat needs to be fun and good in order for most of the game to be fun and good. I think my favorite combat system in any Zelda game is possibly Skyward Sword, because the motion controls there worked perfectly and it led to some very clever ways to defeat certain enemies, and it really felt alive. The whole Zelda game felt alive since you had control of the sword. The Wind Waker also had a very satisfying and fun combat system, and Twilight Princess have these hidden skills you can learn, which really adds to the gameplay. But I do want to say that sometimes, for example in say Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or even Twilight Princess, it often became a little easy, should we say. It often, with most enemies, it's just to wait for them to strike, the enemies to strike, and then you just dodge the attack and then you strike at them. It's often like that, and not much of a variety in the enemies. It's variety in what attacks they do, but how you defeat them is often the same, or at least very similar. I want the combat system in this game to both be fun and satisfying, but also challenging, different. Make me feel like I'm actually fighting someone and not just pressing a button. That's what I want, and that's what I love with Skyward Sword. And since the motion controls in that way is not returning in this game, I hope they can do something clever to kind of make up for that. The return of Ganondorf. We haven't seen Ganondorf in a while. Ganondorf is the main villain of this whole franchise after all, or Ganon rather, I think. Not really sure exactly what the difference between those two are yet, and who both of them are, whatever. I want Ganondorf to return. It's been a couple of games since we saw him. The last time we saw him was in Twilight Princess, and after that we got in Skyward Sword and we got Link Between Worlds. We've never really seen Ganondorf the human yet in a good while. We've seen Ganon in Link Between Worlds, we've seen Demise in Skyward Sword, but Ganondorf himself, we've never seen him. Now there are theories around, in the timeline, if Ganondorf is one and the same in all games, or if he's different ones. It is, from the Ocarina of Time to Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, people strongly believe that he's one and the same. But in Ocarina of Time, in the beginning there, people don't know that he is evil. So this must mean that this Ganondorf is possibly the first one. But not necessary. What if there is a Ganondorf, or was a Ganondorf, before Ocarina of Time as well? What if we can have this game represent the first ever Ganondorf to ever live? What if we can get a kind of a backstory for Ganondorf here, and kind of an origin for Ganondorf, the first Ganondorf to live? That would be amazing, and I would love for Ganondorf to return, because he's one of my favorite, or possibly my most favorite villain ever to exist in any movie, game, whatever. It'd be really nice to see him returning here, and while I doubt he will return, I'd really hope he does, but who knows, we might be surprised. I mean, in Twilight Princess I don't think many people expected him to return when Sant was the main villain. So, that's my 5 hopes for Zelda Wii U, and I guess we'll get lots of these questions answered, along with other questions as well, at E3 this year. But what are your hopes for Zelda Wii U? And yeah, I'd just love to hear your opinions on my hopes in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, if you like my content. And I'll see you in the next video. Drop a like if you enjoy this as well, that will really help out. Thank you and goodbye.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.